Welcome to the Sharkpreneur podcast with Kevin Harrington and Seth Greene. Kevin Harrington is the inventor of the infomercial, one of the original sharks from the hit TV show Shark Tank, and has generated over $5 billion in TV and digital direct response sales. Seth Greene is the world's first trusted authority on cutting-edge direct response marketing, a best-selling author, and the only 3-time Marketer of the Year nominee. On the podcast, Kevin and Seth interview Sharkpreneurs who share straight talk on what it takes to explode your business.
49 faces looked to him in triumph. Over the last 12 months, they had each taken turns and promoted his business for a week at a time, driving over $987,342 in revenue. What if you had a network of 50 centers of influence who promoted your business every week for a year? Grab your copy of the #1 Amazon best-selling book, The Ultimate Guide to Growing Your Business with a Podcast, at 33% off the Amazon price by going to ultimatepodcastbook.com. Again, that website for 33% off the Amazon price is ultimatepodcastbook.com. Welcome to the Sharkpreneur podcast. This is your host, Seth Greene. Today, I've got the good fortune to be interviewing Dr. Brett Lane, who is an SEO expert and digital marketing consultant who helps businesses of all size grow their online presence and achieve their goals through SEO, content creation, link building, and social media marketing. He's worked with major brands like Four Seasons, Progressive, and Nationwide Insurance, and has digital marketing certifications, which I didn't even know existed, from Harvard and Oxford University. Dr. Brett, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Seth.
Well, you are the first person I've interviewed who has a doctorate in digital marketing, but let's go back in time. How did you get started in the business?
So about 21 years ago, I was looking at new things to do, and I was having a conversation with my wife about like consulting, and she said, you're gonna do something in an industry that doesn't even exist. I said, yes. There's SEO is didn't even have a name. It was like people were toying around with meta search engines. And I said, no, I'm going to do this. So I actually wound up consulting for about 3 years on my own. And then I wound up landing an agency job in Ohio, of all places. And that enabled me to start working with Marriott hotels, Renaissance hotels, Progressive Insurance, and then later on Nationwide Insurance. Went with that agency for about 3 years. And then I started to work for one of their biggest competitors. And then they brought me in and allowed me to work with brands like Build-A-Bear workshops and just massive, massive companies. And then I wound up doing that for a number of years and then decided I really want to do this on my own, because I was making these companies millions of dollars a year, making like $40,000 to $80,000 a month or a year. And I was like, this is crazy. I'm selling deals for like $600,000. I need to be making more money. So then I started looking at consulting, and I had a moment where my wife used to work in the banking industry. And she actually got robbed at gunpoint twice.
Oh my God.
And so we had this moment. I had this moment of clarity where I was like, I can't have my wife going into work and having to be worried about her every single day, because she would have stomach issues. So we created a company together. And I literally was fired the next day because I didn't want to have a conflict of interest with the agency that I was working with. So I was working and doing my thing. And then on the weekends and sometimes on lunch breaks, I was talking and doing sales calls for her to bring in new customers, and did that for like 7 years, and then said, I'm done working for brands. And then we started working with other companies ourselves. And it's been a crazy, wild ride in terms of looking at consulting. And one of the biggest things that I've been doing here in the last 3 years has been looking at AI and how do you use that with all facets of content creation. So you mentioned the certifications. During COVID, I got bored. And I said, you know what? Is there anything out there where they have certification programs? And I was like, Harvard's doing one. Well, I've been doing this for, at that point, 19 years. I'm like, I could probably take the certification and do all right. Well, I wound up leading the presentation for the certification to prove what you could do with multiple forms of digital marketing to be able to generate high quality leads that were razor sharp at the lowest cost. My instructor said, that seems like that's a little bit lofty. You're putting too many marketing tactics in it. Well, I actually used the same tactic for a client and was generating over 1,000 leads a month for them by using the stuff that I proposed we do in that certification. Finished that one, then decided to look at Oxford. I was like, these guys have a pretty good program. Let's take a look at this. Went in, did the same thing, created a strategy that was very similar with AI, with content. And then I got through that. And then I thought, I already have my MBA from University of Phoenix. I'm like, I don't need any more education, but are there any programs that deal with doctorates in digital marketing? I found one in the Alfred Nobel Open Business School. It's a little tiny school that's in Sweden that also works through a college in Poland. I'm like, this sounds just kind of crazy. Let me try this. And I looked at it and I was like, the curriculum was all about everything I've done for 20 years. Holy crap. So I wound up going through the program. It was an accelerated program. I did it in 1 year from home, wrote my dissertation, 120 pages. And that dissertation had to do with the things that I proved in those 2 certification classes with Harvard and Oxford. And I didn't do it, but I almost created a whole section of my dissertation about content creation with AI and called it specifically out. But I thought, that may not be good. That's probably pushing the envelope a little too far. But I was able to use AI to help me create all of the formatting, all of like the structure for what I needed to talk about. And I think I wound up making about 5,000 changes to the original doctorate or the dissertation that we had created. So it's been a crazy journey. I've only been a doctor since February of this year. So it's kind of hard thinking like I didn't need it. I think only about 14% of people in the United States even have a degree beyond master's, which that's pretty cool.
Well, congratulations on all of that. I'm sure the longer version of your journey could probably be in a book if it isn't already. Let's get a little bit granular and talk about we're recording this near the end of 2023. Let's talk about all things SEO, digital, and AI, and what that looks like in 2024. You'll pull out your crystal ball just a little bit. So most of the folks listening to this show are not, let's say, progressive nationwide in 4 seasons. They are small business owners. Why is it important for a small business owner to be doing all of these things?
I think the biggest thing is scalability. So it doesn't matter what size business you are. I mentioned those other businesses just to show that I have over 40,000 hours of expertise in digital marketing. But what I learned, the biggest thing I learned is how to take the strategies from these massive companies and condense them into where any business can use them. So when I look at things like AI, I look at the ideas of related to being able to scale anything that you're doing. And I tell people, if you'd like to take any component of what you're doing with your people and put a rocket ship on their back, you're going to get things done at probably 10, 50, 100x what you would have done in the past. So the key thing is, regardless of your business size, if you embrace technology and look at what can be done here in the next few years, even the next 12 months, I have a strong feeling that when you look at tools, like generative AI tools, like Claude AI, Bard, or if you're looking at, there's a ton of different kinds of AI. But where I'm seeing it is the digital landscape in terms of assets, in terms of text-based content is getting huge. Looking at video-based content, podcasting content. And what I'm seeing is this massive influx of companies that are creating content in a way that's starting to sound really, really good. So for instance, 3 years ago, I was looking at text to video solutions and, text to audio solutions, and everything sounded really crazy. Well, just today, I was tooling around with another tool of mine, and I created, I maybe about a week ago, I created 300 blog posts for my site. I did this in 2 days with AI. I was able to take those 300 posts, put them on my website, optimize them with AI, titles, descriptions, the whole 9 yards. And then I was able to take another tool and give a URL to this tool, and it was able to extrapolate all the main details of that and create a video. And it literally took longer to download the video from the platform than it did to create everything. And when I listened to it, I thought, holy cow, it sounded good. The pitch was good. I could tweak the speed of it. We can tweak the language, like if it's male, female, if it's in different languages. So what I'm seeing is tools are out there now, and they're getting created in a way that you can create new content at scale. And some people say, well, if you're like having a conversation like the two of us, it makes more sense to do customized videos. Well, if you go and create 100 blog posts that are really, really good, and it's good content for your users, and let's say you're using a tool like Zimm Writer, ZIMM Writer, $20 a month, It's one of the best content creation tools I've ever used. Plugs in with GPT 4.0, and within their API, I literally can create a piece of content within that tool for 19 cents, 19 to 30 cents per piece of content. And that's going to give me a 2,000 to 3,000 word article. And it's very good content. So you can use tools like that to accelerate your content creation. And then you can also use that content with other tools to be able to create these videos. There's tools like Pictory that are very, very good, that can do things pretty quickly. But I like using those kinds of tools because it makes more sense to be able to scale. Like if you created 100 blog posts, now you have the ability to create 100 videos from those blog posts and do it at scale. It's amazing.
That is absolutely incredible. We're having a lot of fun playing with the AI tools ourselves. Who is an ideal client for your firm now?
For our firm, an ideal client is an influencer, podcaster, or even if it's just larger, businesses that are not doing anything with AI. Companies that are probably around that $10 million yearly mark, who can test different things with AI. Or even just anybody, it's the cool part about what I do is I can take I'm doing strategies that we just talked about, content to, text content to video content. We can take the video content to podcast content. I mean, you can go crazy. Any business that is willing to learn and do new things, that's really where I focus, is like, hey, you got to be ahead of, the curve. You got to be willing to take action. Working with companies where there's too much bureaucracy to make things happen is insane. I worked with one case in point, Build-A-Bear workshops. At the time when I consulted with them at the agency I worked with, I think they spent like over $200,000 for SEO, and it took me a month to give them one deliverable. They only implemented 10% of what I gave them. And their website increased their traffic by 20% in 60 days. And they only implemented 10% of what I gave them. So I don't really enjoy working with companies that are not willing to take action once they've already spent the money, because then they really don't, you got a Ferrari in the garage and you don't even turn the engine on. It's horrible.
Amen to that. What are you, for our clients who aren't, let's say, Build-A-Bear, talk a little bit about the types of results that you've been able to get for those that might be, in that 7-8 figure range, as opposed to a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate.
So the cool thing is, if you're doing anything with content, like I was mentioning, creating articles, and the big thing would be being able to create topical authority for any specific set of keywords or clusters. So like if you're a company that's selling widgets or whatever, and you don't have the exposure within social media or within organic, within Google or any other social platforms, I always tell people, imagine being able to take your content creation and 10x it, and then schedule it out. So I just created a content for my own site, and I have social media scheduled out till July 17th. I did that a month ago. I scheduled out 236 posts. It took me one afternoon across 5 different platforms. So the big thing is being able to turn on that drip feeding of content. So it used to be with social media, you want to post out, people would post out once a week. Then it was 2 times a week, 3 times a week. Now it's 5 times a week. Now it's like, you got to be willing to post a few times per day. And it's not hard with AI if you can schedule out. One good example, I met with a gentleman last night from another mastermind. His name is Darren Jacqueline. He is one of the founders of eXp Realty. And we literally sat down for 40 minutes and I created a year's worth of content for him in 40 years. We scheduled it out in terms of the plan. So now I'm going to take that 40 minutes and that 12 months of article topics, social media topics, and then I'm going to build out so that when he is getting ready to go to Antarctica, which he's going to be doing in 1 year, climbing one of the tallest mountains in the world, he's now going to be able to do videos every single day leading up to his trip, talking about what he's doing, where he's going, how he's training, what he's eating. And crazy enough, he eats a crap load of gummy bears when they're traveling, because there's so much calories and so much sugar that gets him through what he needs to do. But I was laughing. I'm like, dude, we just spent literally 40 minutes and we created a whole year's worth of a content calendar. So that's one prime example. That's just with social media. We didn't even touch blog content. We didn't touch doing anything else with video automation. So the kicker really is being able to help companies take what they're doing and scale. So even if it's a matter of, hey, I've got somebody like from your audience who's like, I just really want to learn more about XYZ. Hey, awesome. I'm willing to jump on and have a Zoom call and do what I did yesterday. This is one of my good friends. We spent 40 minutes. Typically, I can spend between 15 and 30 minutes with a person and be able to create a strategy and say, oh, what's your biggest thing that you want to do? Oh, it's content creation with text. Okay, you need to use these tools and in this fashion. If you're doing the same thing with video, with audio, here's how you get the best bang for your buck. Here's how you schedule things. Like, I use a tool called socialpilot.io, which I love because I can post up to 500 text posts at one time. And you can, once you get a client to approve the information and you created it with AI, they're able to schedule things out in mass. So I'm totally open for having those conversations too, because I'm really wanting to just build upon my brand with what I'm doing, not only with SEO and digital as a whole, but with AI, because I've been in the SEO space for 21 years, but I've been doing things with AI many years before AI was even becoming popular. Like I started tweaking content about 7 or 8 years ago when it was at its infancy to create variations of content. So it was very good looking and it would read well, and you wouldn't get any slap by Google when they see new content being created in mass. So almost a decade I've been dealing with things with AI. It just wasn't called like artificial. Everything now is artificial intelligence. I'm like, no, this was latent semantic indexing and processing and machine learning to a degree, but it was machine learning where you had your elbows in terms of telling the machines what to do.
That makes a lot of sense. Your passion is obvious. What do you like best about what you're doing now?
I like just being able to solve problems. I love being able to look at people who've been trying to do a lot of things with technology and then show them how to just go in and just hyper accelerate it and be able to do it in a way that's cost effective. I love, like I was telling you with Darren, he just sent a Facebook post yesterday. In his post, he said, I just met with Dr. Brett, and in the 40 minutes, we created a year worth of content and he saved me $10,000 in consulting. I got very excited about that. I was like, holy crap. I love hearing things. I had another friend of mine send me a video out of the blue. He's like, hey, you talked to me about 2 content platforms. You just saved me 10 grand out of pocket costs. I'm like, holy crap. It's amazing.
That's certainly a reason to get up in the morning. We know your time is incredibly valuable. We greatly appreciate you spending some with us. For our viewers and listeners who are interested in learning more, where is the best place for them to go to learn more about Dr. Brett Lane?
The best place to find me is Brett, BRETTS as in Stephen, LANE.com. That'll take you directly to my main site. If you have questions, you can get in contact with me. Feel free to email me. And I can, if we need to set up any kind of consulting calls, I'm basically available to be able to answer questions. I love dealing with AI and tech. Any way I get to interact with people from that standpoint, it gets me excited.
All right. Well, this has been Seth Greene for Sharkpreneur with Brett Lane of BrettSLane.com. Brett, thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, everybody, for watching or listening. We will talk to you or see you next time.
Why do so many businesses struggle while others seem to explode overnight? Do you wish you had the secret to this type of exponential growth? Now, I've scaled more than 20 businesses to over $100 million, and it's not just luck. In my new book with Mark Tim, Mentor to Millions, you'll learn the repeatable framework I use in all my business ventures for massive success. Order at kevinmentor.com and get over $1,000 in bonuses. Head to kevinmentor.com.